Let's put aside the fantasy of becoming a billionaire for a moment and focus on a much smaller, but far more important number, $20. On Wall Street, that figure might seem insignificant, perhaps just the cost of a single dinner with expensive wine, but for ordinary people, it is the most decisive financial threshold in life. The reason lies in a concept borrowed from physics called escape velocity. When a rocket launches into space, it burns the majority of its fuel during the first few minutes because it must fight Earth's strongest gravitational pull and the thickest atmospheric resistance. In personal finance, the zone between 0 and 20,000 functions in the same way. When your savings are below this level, you are not progressing, you are simply struggling to survive. Life in this stage is fragile. A small emergency becomes a catastrophe because you lack the financial cushion to absorb it. Car repair may not just be an inconvenience. It could mean missing rent, taking out a high-interest loan, or falling into a cycle of debt that takes years to escape. Medical issues, broken appliances, and unexpected fees all hit harder because you lack reserves. This is the gravity of poverty. When you have no money, the cost of surviving is actually higher. Banks charge fees for low balances, landlords impose late penalties, and you are forced to buy cheaper items that break more often, costing more over time. Each step forward feels like walking through quicksand, where pulling one foot free only sinks the other deeper. That is why the first $20,000 is harder to accumulate than the next $80. Without this base, investing strategies and financial advice are almost meaningless because compounding requires something to compound. If your principal is tiny, even excellent returns barely change your life. Many people spend years in this tunnel working hard but feeling stuck, eventually losing hope and turning to consumption just to numb the frustration. This video is not about getting rich quickly. It is about generating enough thrust to break out of this gravity well. Once you cross that 20,000 line, the resistance drops, opportunities expand, and effort finally starts producing meaningful results. Once you reach 20,000 savings, something invisible but powerful changes inside your mind. You may look the same externally, still driving the same car and wearing the same clothes, but your psychological state is transformed. This stage marks the birth of what can be called refusal power, the ability to say no without fear. To understand this, imagine two employees, Jack and Mike, working in the same office with identical salaries and skills. Jack has no savings and perhaps even credit card debt, while Mike has $20,000 in the bank. When their boss demands unpaid overtime or asks them to participate in unethical practices, Jack's brain immediately enters survival mode. His heart races, cortisol spikes, and fear overwhelms his judgment because losing his job would mean immediate financial disaster. He reluctantly agrees, sacrificing dignity for security. Mike, on the other hand, has the freedom to evaluate the situation calmly. He can push back, negotiate, or even walk away if necessary because his savings provide a buffer of time and options. This difference is not about courage or personality, it is about capital. Financial reserves act like armor for your self-respect. Psychological research supports this reality. Chronic financial stress reduces cognitive bandwidth and can temporarily lower IQ, making it harder to plan and make rational decisions. When you constantly worry about bills, your mind cannot focus on long-term strategy. But with a financial cushion, your brain exits survival mode and enters strategic mode. You start thinking months and years ahead rather than hours and days. You become more confident in conversations, more composed in conflicts, and more capable of making thoughtful choices. True wealth, therefore, is not defined by luxury possessions, but by the freedom to choose your actions without fear. The first 20,000 buys that freedom, not in material goods, but in mental clarity and dignity. Beyond psychology, crossing the $20 threshold triggers a fundamental mathematical shift. Compound interest, often called the eighth wonder of the world, only works effectively once a certain critical mass of capital is reached. With very small amounts of money, even excellent investment returns produce results too small to affect daily life. For example, earning 10% on housing yields only hours, which disappears quickly in everyday expenses. However, the same return on $1,000 produces $2,000, an amount large enough to cover major costs like rent or insurance. At this point, your investments begin acting as a silent partner that contributes meaningfully to your financial stability. This is similar to rolling a snowball down a hill. Without a solid core, loose snow cannot stick, and the ball never rolls. The first 20,000 forms that core, allowing compounding to begin its exponential process. Using the rule of 72, you can estimate that money invested at around 7 to 10% annually doubles every 7 to 10 years. Over decades, that initial 20,000 can grow into hundreds of thousands without additional contributions, simply by remaining invested. Many beginners make the mistake of chasing high-risk, high-return opportunities because they feel their starting capital is too small. Ironically, this often leads to losing everything and being forced to restart from zero. Before reaching $20, your primary task is not aggressive investing, but disciplined accumulation and preservation of capital. Once that base exists, the laws of financial gravity reverse. Instead of fighting to climb upward, your money begins rolling forward on its own, gradually carrying you toward larger financial milestones. However, reaching $20 introduces a new danger known as the Great Filter. This term, borrowed from evolutionary theory, describes a stage where many fail to progress despite having the potential to succeed. When you finally accumulate significant savings after years of sacrifice, your brain demands a reward. You may feel entitled to upgrade your lifestyle, replace your aging car, or take an expensive vacation. At the same time, external pressure from friends and family may encourage you to spend, suggesting that money is meant to be enjoyed rather than saved. This combination of internal desire and social influence creates a powerful temptation to destroy the very foundation you worked so hard to build. Purchasing a new car, for instance, may feel like a celebration of success, but financially it often represents the destruction of your investment core. Depreciation, loan payments, insurance, and maintenance costs can quickly drag you back into the financial gravity well. Social dynamics make this even harder. People around you may mock your frugality or accuse you of being overly cautious because your discipline highlights their own impulsive spending. This phenomenon, sometimes compared to crabs pulling each other back into a bucket, can discourage you from maintaining your long-term plan. Passing this filter requires accepting temporary discomfort, ignoring social validation, and finding satisfaction in financial security rather than visible consumption. If you can resist these pressures, you move into a small minority of individuals who successfully transition from mere earners to true wealth builders. Once you pass the Great Filter, the next phase involves tactical execution to grow your savings from $1,000 to $1. At this stage, your capital should be divided into two categories: protection and growth. A portion, typically $5,000 to $10,000, should remain in highly liquid and safe assets, such as savings accounts or government bonds. This serves as your financial armor, protecting you from unexpected events and preventing you from being forced to sell investments during market downturns. The remaining funds can be deployed into diversified, low-cost index funds that track broad market performance. Instead of attempting to pick individual winning stocks, which requires expertise and carries high risk, owning the entire market allows you to benefit from overall economic growth. In addition to financial investments, this stage is also the ideal time to invest in yourself through education, certifications, or skill development. This type of investment offers asymmetric risk, meaning the potential upside is far greater than the limited downside. Spending a small portion of your capital to acquire new skills can significantly increase your earning potential over time. As your income grows and your investments compound simultaneously, you effectively operate with two engines pushing you toward financial independence: human capital and financial capital. Avoiding dangerous financial behaviors during this stage is crucial. Leverage, speculative trading, and premature home purchases can all lock you into long-term obligations that reduce flexibility and increase risk. Patience and consistency remain your strongest allies on the journey towards six-figure net worth. The final transformation that occurs after saving $20,000 is not purely financial, but deeply personal. Many people feel underwhelmed when they reach this milestone because their external lifestyle has not dramatically changed. They may still live in modest housing and drive older vehicles. However, the true reward appears in the form of reduced stress and improved well-being. Financial insecurity is a chronic stressor that keeps cortisol levels elevated, contributing to anxiety, sleep problems, and strained relationships. With a solid emergency fund, its constant tension begins to fade. You sleep more peacefully, interact more calmly with loved ones, and approach life with a greater sense of stability. This invisible dividend is often more valuable than material luxuries. Money cannot guarantee happiness, but it can eliminate many sources of misery. The first 20,000, therefore, represents more than a financial milestone. It marks a shift in your relationship with money itself. Before this point, money controls your decisions, forcing you into jobs you dislike and preventing you from taking meaningful risks. After this point, money becomes a tool rather than a master. You gain the ability to make choices based on values and long-term goals rather than immediate necessity. Reflecting on this journey reveals how such a seemingly small amount of money can act as a fulcrum that changes the direction of an entire life. It is not glamorous or dramatic, but it is profoundly powerful. Reaching this threshold requires discipline, patience, and sacrifice, yet it offers a level of security and opportunity that few other financial milestones